Hey, what's up everyone? John the Geek here, and today I'm going to be showing you how to set up a wireless router, right? And then in addition to that, I'm also going to set up this router to be used as a repeater. And then for the legacy items, for the old non-wireless N items, for the wireless G devices, this router is going to be turned into an access point and working as a wireless G only. So these two devices here, this one and this one, is going to be a wireless N device, and this one's for the legacy wireless G devices. We just hard reset our routers here, and now that that's all done, the last thing we got to check, and this may not apply to you if you already know about your cable modem, but some cable modems are actually built-in routers, or they have routers built into them. So it's a single unit that's a cable modem coming from your ISP, your internet service provider. They could also be providing you a router and you don't even know it. It may not look anything like this. It may just have a little box with one port going in, one port going out, but it still could be a router. So the best way to check actually is to take the internet or the Ethernet cable from your cable modem, right, and then plug it into your computer or your laptop. And I know I'm on a Mac, and hopefully I can show you real quick on the PC how to check your IP address that the cable modem is giving you, right? So with the cable plugged in now, what you're going to do is you're going to go to network, right? And right here where it says Ethernet, it's connected. Over on the right, and I'm going to have to block this out, I'm sorry, but over on the right you'll see it says IP address here, and then you'll have your IP address here coming straight from the modem, and it could be like a 72.10.34.790, or not 790, but 190 or something, right? And underneath the subnet and mask should be 255.255.255, or sometimes .252, somewhere around there. And then your router IP address, it'll be like something 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 matching the first IP address .1, right? And so and the rest is just arbitrary information. You don't need to memorize all these numbers, but just know that typically if your cable modem is also a router, you would get a private IP address of like 192.168.1.1, right? Or 192.168.2.1, or 192.168.0.1, right? Typically those are routers, typical home routers IP address. And if you have that coming out of your cable modem, the thing that you're getting internet from, it's going to get a little complicated, because if it is a 192.168.1.1 and this is a 192.168.1.1, there's going to be some conflict, and you won't be able to plug this router in with your modem because your modem is already a router, right? So you're going to have to take out or call your ISP and ask them if you can have a straight through modem and no router, because you're going to be setting up your own router, and they're going to walk you through all that. It's kind of a hassle, but that's worst case scenario. Most likely, especially if you're on Time Warner, never seen a cable modem that's also a router. I've only seen it like once or twice through Verizon and their Westel modems. They also are routers, but hopefully you don't have that. So now I'm going to get back to configuring, actually plugging in and configuring this router. Alright, so now that I'm ready to plug everything in, I'm going to take my modem here, right, and I'm going to plug one line into this, one of the yellow ports here. It could be any of them, right? It's LAN 1, 2, 3, or 4, the yellow ports there, right? And I'm going to take that Ethernet cord and I'm going to plug this into the computer or the laptop. Right? So now that I have that plugged in, I'm going to plug in the power here. So the power is plugged in. We're going to wait 30 seconds. And to verify that we have an IP address, we'll go ahead and start up system preferences again, go to network, and we're going to wait. It's going to take a couple of seconds, probably about 30 seconds. Oh, and by the way, one important thing, there's a little switch back here on this particular model. There's a little switch back there that says has 3 settings: router, repeater, and AP. Make sure that it's set to router, right? Okay, so our computer here has picked up an IP address from our router, and the IP address that the router is giving this computer is 192.168.1.2, right? Now the router itself has an IP address. It's got its own IP address that's reserved for the router only. So this IP address right here, it's also called the default gateway, is 192.168.1.1. This is the address that we're going to be putting into the browser so that we can log into the software that's in the router. The router itself has its own software or firmware, and to get to that firmware, get to that software and configure everything, we have to open up a browser and type in 192.168.1.1. Now, just so you know, I'm also going to be plugging in the internet that's coming from my modem. Don't have to do this, but I just don't want any errors because the router is going to give me errors saying it's not connected to the internet. Let's try to figure out why we're not connected to the internet, and we don't really want that right now. But just for the purpose of this video, I'm going to plug in the internet here to the router so that it gets internet, so it doesn't complain to me saying that the router isn't working or the modem isn't working and giving me a bunch of errors. Okay, so again, we're going to open up the browser. Then I'm going to type in 192.168.1.1, right? And then so that is the IP address of this particular router, and when you press enter, right, it's going to come up asking you for a username and password. And now, because we did a hard reset, it should default to the default username and password, and somewhere on your router typically will have the default username and password. On here, the default, factory default settings is admin. It says it on the bottom here. On yours it might be a little different, so you'll have to find it. So it says admin, so I'll just type in admin there, and then for the password it's admin, and you press enter, and voila, you're in the software now. We're in business. If you don't have the internet plugged in, it's gonna tell you, let's try to figure out the internet. Just try to look for the button that says skip or advanced settings, something like that. Alright, so now that we are here, what we want to do is actually go to the wireless settings, right? And this right here, I'm actually going to call main router, right? Just, you can name it whatever it is that you want to name yours. You can call it home or, you know, Skynet, whatever it is that you want, but for the purpose of this demonstration, I'm going to call it main router. And what I typically do is use this router for N only, because a mixture of auto, which mixes B, G, N, G, B, all that stuff, mixes all of them together. When you have a G device, right, go onto your router and you start using the G network, all of your N networks then become Gs, right? So kind of is pointless, kind of useless. And that's why I like to set everything as N only. So I'll set that as N only. Channel bandwidth I'll leave at 20 megahertz, only because it's more compatible with the other devices, that the repeaters that I'm adding in here, right? And the channel, typically you want to stick with the odds numbers, and I'll tell you why after we do the Wi-Fi analyzing. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11. any one of those. If you have extra ones like 13, 14, 15, 16, leave those alone. Those are for, I think, Japan or another country that uses those channels. They have licensing for those channels. So just stick with 1 through 11 here. Or you can do auto if you want, but when we're mixing multiple devices, auto kind of messes things up a little. All right, so let's just set it manually, and I'm gonna set mine to 3. The password here, or the authentication method, I'm going to use a WPA2 Personal, and it's important that all your devices support WPA2. If not, then the lowest I would go would be WPA Personal, and you can leave it at that. But WPA Personal is better. If you have the Nintendo Wii, you might have a problem with using an encryption, because the Wii, last time I heard, it was only WEP, and WEP is horrible encryption. Look, they don't even have it as an option here because it's just a horrible type of encryption. So on that note, I can't really tell you, not yet. You'll have to find another means of encrypting the traffic for that. Right. So yeah, WPA2 encryption type is AES, which is the best, and then the password for my wireless is going to be Johnny the Geek, so I'll leave that. You want something a little bit more complex than that. You want a combination of letters, symbols, and numbers, right? And at least 8 characters. When you have that, it's almost virtually impossible. It takes massive amounts of computing power to be able to break your encryption. So after that, you hit apply, and it's going to reset. So it's going to take a little longer than that because I didn't really make any changes to any settings. All right, so you can leave all of this alone, but under administration, the default password was admin. You want to change that, right? So change this to another type of password. If you want to use the same password as your wireless, fine, go ahead. But change this password to something else, something more complicated. For now, I'm just going to leave it at admin, right, for the purpose of this video and making things quick. So that's pretty much it for the main router. We're done setting this up, the main router. All right, so one of the last things you want to do right here is click on the reboot button, and that will do a soft reboot, or you can unplug the power, wait 30 seconds, and then plug the power back in. Make sure the settings are solid right in there. So I'm going to just leave this alone for now, and now we're going to plug in the repeater. Okay, so my next device here is my repeater, right? And so I don't have the cord plugged in yet, so I'm going to go ahead and plug the cord in. Much like the first router, I'm going to plug it into the yellow port here, the switch, right? So we'll plug that in, and then now I got to wait until this acquires an IP address as well. And there you go. It's got one. It's pretty quick. And again, I'm going to open up the browser, and I'm going to do, oh, okay. So it came up here with this, with these settings, asking what does it want to be. But I'm going to just go ahead and skip this and log in. Password was admin. So we're back to the very beginning of this router, which, by the way, I still have the first router plugged in, or the power is on. It's still on, right? It's important that this is still on, the main router, because the secondary router, the repeater, is going to need to pick up the signal, right? And I'll show you in a second what I mean by that. But make sure that this first router is on. And it's good to see if you can have the internet plugged into it too. All right, so we have the second router here, okay? And it's plugged into the computer. That's what we're looking at on the screen here. And we're going to go to administration, and then we want to set this up. And if you notice here, it is set as a IP sharing mode, which is a router. It's a standard router, and it gives you a little picture. Here's the cable modem, and here's the router, and it's, you know, sharing the internet to this wired client, and it's sharing the internet to this wireless client, right? But we want to change this to repeater mode. Okay, so once we set it to repeater mode, click on save. Now it's going to go through, okay, you're telling me to become a repeater. What do you want me to repeat? What wireless signal is out there that you want me to repeat? And look, right at the very top here, the very strongest signal, right here, it's on channel 3, is the main router, which is on, sitting right next to me. That's the main router, and we want to repeat that signal. This device right here, we want to repeat that signal. So once you click on that, and if you notice here, take a look at your neighbors' channels. Notice how everybody's a 6. That's the default. So anyways, yeah, the main router right here, that's what we want to connect to. So we'll click on connect, and it's asking for a key. And remember, my key on that other router, my internet key, was Johnny the Geek, right? Yours might be different. Well, most likely, I hope it is different. All right, so now this router is now becoming a repeater, and it's trying to find and connect to this router so that it can repeat the signal, right? So it's going to repeat the signal now, which is a beautiful thing. And once you have that, what you're going to do is then sit this next to your modem, right, wherever your modem is. Put this next to there. It's done. You just set up your modem and a router, and you've got the internet, and you're on Wi-Fi and everything. The next thing you want to do is take this right here, right after it's done, after it's all finished. Take this, and you don't need the Ethernet cable anymore. You just need the power, and plug this somewhere where you have very weak signal, but have at least a little bit of the main router signal. I mean, don't go like across the street or something where you get absolutely no signal and you can't find this thing. But go somewhere where you're having trouble, like if your modem is downstairs, come upstairs and put this somewhere where you can get, you know, a little bit of signal, because it has to repeat it. It has to be able to catch the signal. It boosts it up and then sends it out and repeats the signal. All right. So if that's all you need and you want to run on N only or G only, you could have just set this up as G. You know, the section where I showed you to set up a N only. You could also say G only and just set everything up at G only. You have much more compatibility with that. And if you do set it up with G only, hey, that should be good enough, especially if you're sharing internet, right? It's not so great when you're sharing files, when you're networking computers together and you're sharing large video files from one computer to another. You're sending files. Not so great. You're going to want N for that. But if you want maximum compatibility, go with G. And G is good for like HD streaming of Netflix and video and stuff like that. It's just not so great when you're transferring files. It'll work, but it just works slow, and it just takes a long time. But if you want, just go with G, and it's the best thing to go with. All right, so lastly, the very final router device, and this is if you have another one, is we're going to set this to be a access point for the legacy items. So the other items, if you set that to wireless N only, we want another access point to be the G only. Right? So we can have both wireless N only and wireless G only, because you know they don't work so well together all in one package. So if we separate them, they'll work just fine. So we have our last device here, and for this we're going to set it to access point mode, right? And once we do that, click on save, right? And the SSID, we'll call it, what did I call it? Main router, we'll call this legacy, right? Or wireless G or something to indicate that that's the G only stuff. And the network key, I'll just again call it Johnny the Geek. This can be the same password as your other wireless device. So click on finish, and then it's going to restart. It's going to take a little while, and then the very last thing I'm going to show you is how everything's going to be connected together physically, right? Alright, so this is how the final setup should look like. We have right over here our cable modem, right? And from that cable modem I've got this line here, this Ethernet cord, right? So this Ethernet cord should go into the blue port here, right, of this main router. So that goes in the blue port there. So that's all good. Okay, and then the access point. This is the access point with the wireless G, the legacy access point that the last step that we did. We're going to plug a line in to the WAN port here, right? So that goes into the WAN port, and then the other line here goes into one of the switches, this yellow port, any one of these, and also other computers that you have that might be near the modem router and this particular device here. Any other computers would go into any of these other switches here, right? So once you have that, you've got your wireless N only, you've got your wireless G only, right? And then this final device here, this is our repeater. This is going to go somewhere else in the house, somewhere again where you're getting the weak signal. This is where that goes, with the power, of course, obviously. And after you have everything plugged in, typically the order of what you want to do is that you want to plug in, power cycle the modem, right? So unplug the power on that, and then wait 30 seconds. And then plug the power back in, wait another 30 seconds, then plug in the main router, plug in that blue cable there. I'm sorry, have this power off, right? No power going to this. Plug in the power, wait about 30 seconds, and then plug in the blue cable here that's coming from this modem. Plug in the blue cable, wait about 30 seconds, and then with this powered off, same thing, plug the power in, wait 30 seconds, and then plug the Ethernet cables in. And then, after all that, plug this in and wait 30 seconds. And then test all your connections, go somewhere near here, and then try to connect to the internet. All of which, the SSID for this repeater and for the router should be I think I called it main router. Yeah, main router. And then this one right here, this legacy SSID is called legacy. All of which has the same password. At least that's the way I set it up. You don't have to do it like that, but just to make things easier to follow, to make sure that you have everything correct. That's how you should set it up. Alright, well, with that said, I hope that helps everybody out. Thanks for watching.